Welcome to episode 86 of Beer with Strangers.
Are you sure?
I think it's 86. It could be 87, but it's coming up on 100 is what it is. I'm your host, Tony Rousseau, and I'm joined this week, as I'm joined each week, by Doug Griffith.
Are you sure?
I am sure.
Okay, you're sure. All right. Good morning, Tony, or good afternoon, as it may be when time you listen to this.
Yeah, it could be good night.
The weather report for today: sunny, very sunny, which is great, but still cold today. But at least it's not raining or snowing, so
yeah,
dry up some of this wet weather, the ground we've had lately here.
Yeah, it was really weird when I came out this morning. It just looked so nice, and then it was cold.
Still need a jacket.
Yeah, you need a coat for sure. But it's going to be great for this weekend. And by the time you hear this, we might be sold out of tickets for that beer festival at Secrets.
Oh, good.
I was speaking with my boss on the way here, and between the time I left my house in Del Mar and drove here to Laurel, it's maybe 15 minutes if you're driving slowly. We sold 20 tickets.
That's great.
She called me, and then
and if you are sold out, you're welcome to come here. We have an all-grain demonstration going on Saturday afternoon, starting at noon. So it runs to about 5 o'clock. So if you're sold out at the beer festival with Shorecraft Beer, come see us, and we'll show you how to brew it yourself.
Absolutely. And actually, I gave a talk last night at the Berlin Library, and that's pretty much precisely what I said. I'm like, we have this beer festival tomorrow because I didn't know this, and I can't think of the person's name now. But one of the librarians brews here with her husband. He gets their stuff here with her husband, but they haven't been around in like a year or so. Right. They made all the beer for their wedding and a mead in November. And so they can't stand brewing for a little while. They're taking a little time off. But anyway, so it was her idea to have me come and talk to the people in Berlin. And so I spoke with them, and people started asking about, home brewing, how much. There's this one guy from Tennessee, and he's like, how much are you allowed to home brew? And I said, I don't know. I said, let's say 200 gallons, but there is for two people in a household, it's legally you can make 200 gallons of wine and 200 gallons of beer. With only one person in the household, then it's 1 gallon or 100 gallons. Right. And of beer and 100 gallons of wine. So that's still generally plenty. That's plenty. He's like, because I don't know. He's like, because he's from Tennessee, and he's like, we had some odd laws. He's like, I made my own beer. And I said, yeah, you're not going to be able to make more beer than you can drink. I said, if you want to sell it, then you're going to get in trouble. Yeah, and it can vary, but generally that is the federal guidelines, and usually the states follow the federal. So right. And so a couple people were asking about home brewing, and that's exactly what I said. I said, we're having a beer festival tomorrow, and people are like, well, I don't know if I can get a babysitter, or, I don't know if I'm ready to spend the money, it's been a hard week or whatever. And I said, well, option number 2 is come down to Extreme and learn to brew. And people there was a gentleman there from who actually his wife saw it in the paper and sent her to see me. And he said, I think we have some sort of, they do some sort of homebrew thing down at. They generally about 4 times a year have a get together, and part of the get together is the home brewers display their wares. We go down and take something generally to taste. Right. But they have commercial beers too. It's right in used to be, I guess, the NCO club. Right. Or it's now, they still have a bar, Rocket Club. They still have a bar there in the backside. I think they charge $5 to get in, which goes to some of the funds that they do for activities. But it's a good time. They usually have something to eat, or they always have something to eat. And then drinks. So, and we're not the only ones that go. I mean, usually Third Wave generally goes. Once in a while, you'll see Burley Oaks. Dogfish is usually there. So Evolution is there sometimes. Tall Tales once in a while. So right. It's a nice event, and you get to taste some of the local brews as well as the home brews. And sometimes they actually have contests for the home brewers. I would love to go. The next time I'm going to clear my schedule, and I promise I'm going to clear my schedule and go, because I'd love to go. I'd love to cover it. I think it'd be a great story to do. And usually Thursday evening, and it's about every 3 or 4 months. Yeah. So we'll go, and we'll go after the podcast. You guys usually miss the podcast that week because you leave early. Yes. For Wallop Sound. So we'll skip the podcast that week, and then we can do it down there. Maybe we can do it down there. We can record it. I don't know if we can beam it. But there's no reason we couldn't. And by the way, if you are on your way to Wallop Sound this morning, drive safely. And thank you for staying with us. We're back on the internet. If you don't know, we're back on iTunes. Every week we get uploaded. The audio, I think you'll notice, is exceptional. It's better. Like the first 3 weeks were meh. I messed up the one with Sean, and we couldn't even upload that one because it was just the audio was crap. But we got it nailed down now, and as long as we keep making good audio with our new toys, we'll keep uploading it.
Just a note to those of you who are at Wallops Island, Extreme Brewing makes a trek down once a month, third Friday of each month, and drops off supplies. We've got something set up on the website for you to make purchases and designate it as for delivery at Wallops. So if you don't have the time to come up and see us, we'll bring it down to you.
That's so cool. And that was the other thing that the kid was telling me and I say a kid, that just shows you how old I am. Because we were talking.
He's probably 25 or better.
And he's probably also, a rocket scientist. Yeah. And because he lives in Berlin and he makes the commute. So it was cool. It was cool to talk to him. It was cool to talk to everybody. Thank you for everyone who came out. And that's not even what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the brewing, the distilling. You were on a distilling tour recently, and you guys are setting up another one. Do you want to?
Well, we had a distilling class at Beach Time Distilling in Lewis, Delaware, 2 weeks ago. Greg Christmas and Marianne Christmas, who are the proprietors of Beach Time, gave a talk about distilling and tour of their facilities, talked about distillation, different type of distillation, bottling, and all aspects of the different ingredients that are used in distillation. So we're having one here at the end of April 30th, by a local distiller who's just gotten started up, Ray Baker of RD Baker Distilling. He's going to be giving the demonstration here at Extreme Brewing on the 30th of April. So
that's very, very, very exciting. And we'll do a story on that. Hopefully, maybe I'll get an introduction and go up there and do a little story on him and, the things that he's doing on Shorecraft, Shorecraft beer. Maybe I'll get my boss to change. I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but maybe we'll see about getting Shorecraft. I don't know. I guess you don't buy Shorecraft beer without buying Shorecraft. So maybe we'll get Shorecraft and switch it over, and that way I can write about something, distilling and wine and all the fun things.
Well, but one thing to note, that all distilleries have to have a brewing license, because all distilled spirits are brewed before they're distilled. So
I was explaining that, and it's fun to know enough to be dangerous. But I was explaining that to someone the other day. I'm like, it starts off you're boiling grain, and then everything after that is. I mean, it matters which grains you boil, but other than that.
But also, it's they can make rum, which either is sugarcane or molasses or a combination of the both.
Mm-hmm.
Each type of spirit has a certain requirement as far as ingredients to be sold as a specific product. So
very cool.
Whether you're going to do distillation yourself or not, and it is illegal,
right?
But at least you know a little bit more about it and what the ingredients are.
Right. And you can also, as we always say, you can make scents, what it is called, essential oils
and distilled water.
Yes.
For the those who are
for your humidor.
For those who want to be self-sufficient in case of emergency.
Right. My daughter actually distills. I think I may have told you this. I don't know if I said it on the air though. At UMES. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. My daughter's part of a program where they're distilling lemongrass.
Okay.
And she
for the essential oils.
Right. And the project is, does it change the amount of oil you get if you freeze dry the leaves first, or if you just
open up the pores?
Right. Yeah. And I think the answer is no. She says she thinks the answer is no, but she says I work for the scientists. I'm still an undergraduate. And that brings me to something else I saw about this week that I'd never heard before, which is freeze distilling. Are you familiar with?
Yes. That also is illegal.
Oh,
I'm sure it is. Easy to do at home. I mean, you just freeze whatever you want, and whatever the liquid is that is still fluid is your distilled product.
And so that would be like the poor man's brandy. Yes. If I were to throw a bag of wine, get a box of wine and throw the bag in the
but you still get an increased level of alcohol from that.
Right. And hopefully an increased flavor too. I think that's,
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So thing number 2 I wanted to talk about is a little bit of breaking news later this week. Hopefully, if I can get it together. If not, actually, definitely later this week, because even though we talked about something that was happening Saturday, we might not get this up until Sunday. So, so depending upon when this gets up, hopefully it'll be before March starts. How about I'll say that? I'll have a story up on the new the new maltery. Malt house.
Yeah.
That's going to be opening here in Laurel, Delaware. I spoke briefly with and she said that they're ready to do press, because we've been trying to find out for weeks, months, really. The rumor, it's going to be one of those rumors that's been in the ether, and everybody's like, yeah, I heard a guy say something about, hearing a guy say something about.
My understanding, they've bought the property,
yes,
so
they've
it's now for common knowledge.
Right. I went to the company's website, and they have pictures of the Laurel granary up there where they're going to be doing the distilling. And my primary goal, sorry, the malting, right?
You should also call them a maltster,
right?
Yeah.
And my primary goal is to just get in there and get some pictures of the old mill before they redo it. I'd like to go down there and maybe kind of document the whole process from the cleanup to the first day of operations. I can't imagine that they're going to be ready to go before the fall. I mean,
I heard 80 million. That's 80,
wow.
80. I don't know. It was phenomenal amount. I heard $80 million project.
That sounds about right. I mean, just because you feel like they're going to have, I mean, I don't know what a modern malt house looks like, but you feel there's like conveyor belts and.
Well, there's, at least from what I've seen, they put a trough in about the size of a football field. And have a gantry across the top of it with some big screws that actually turn the malt.
Oh, wow.
So there are, I know Greece Malts has some of that information online that you can go look at. But yeah, it's pretty extensive if they're doing it in large quantities.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a massive, massive place. This was a chicken feed mill.
Yeah.
So, or a grain mill of some sort. You figure chicken feed, but who knows? Maybe it was cow feed, but I feel confident saying that there was chicken feed there. But it's very exciting. And if this is a big company that's already doing it, then our earlier concerns that the malt might be too expensive for the smaller brewers might not be true. These could be people who are looking to get into the malt game.
Well, they're not getting into it; they already do.
Right. To get into it here,
they know what pricing it should be, and I've heard that they're talking to some of the local farmers now already
about getting grains, and you got to and you have to figure they could at least do enough specialty malt for everyone around here that,
I think if they're investing that much money, they're going to be able to provide most of the malt, hopefully, for around here, specialty and base.
Really? So, but like for Evo and Dogfish, that kind of operation, or
if they're spending that much money,
yeah, maybe
then it's going to be the problem of getting enough grain.
Yeah.
So
that would be so funny if we were actually having to import grain onto the eastern shore. I don't know how often that happens, but I'm thinking not very.
Yeah, I would think so. Most of the time we're exporting.
Right. And what the fun part is, when I spoke with Brooks Clayville about his malting project, because they were trying to grow the 2-row malt for Burley.
Yeah.
For years. They've probably been trying for 5 years. And he said the reason that he's willing to take the chance is because Purdue will buy everything. Like, if the reason he doesn't mind growing test barley is because if it doesn't come out, Purdue will buy it from him anyway for feed. And that's going to be, I think, the big selling point to a lot of the farmers who are looking to do these cover crops anyway. When the farmers know that whatever their cover crops are going to be, Purdue's going to buy it.
Right. But generally for malt, you're paid a premium because it's a better quality, less amount, less quantity, more quality, but you can still sell it.
Right. If
there's a problem.
Yeah. If it goes wrong, or if the market's down or whatever. But I don't see it like, I don't see the market disappearing in any kind of big way. And
I wouldn't think so.
nah, I like I said, I think it's probably not going to grow. I mean, it can't possibly grow as it's been growing. But I feel like I don't think we're going to see a huge crash. I mean, and that's kind of the next thing we're going to talk about. People ask me all the time just because I'm loud. About the craft
Associated with beer.
right, and about the craft beer bubble or whether there's going to be one and things like this. And I want to tell you just a quick joke. There's a web comic that I like, and I can't remember the name of it now, but it's up on the website. You can take a look at it. And it's there's a guy, his wife is calling. I mean, it's a stick figure, but you figure it's a guy because it's the kind of thing a guy would do. And the wife is calling, and she says, aren't you coming to bed? And he's like, I'm doing something important. And he's typing on the computer, and she's like, what could be so important? And he looks up and he says, someone is wrong on the internet.
Just someone.
Right. And so that actually started a saying. It's Swati, someone on the internet is wrong, is what they say. And I ended up writing a 4-paragraph response to someone's question about, why there's so much garbage beer and why it's going to mean that there's going to be a craft beer bubble. And I'm like, you know what? If you want to be dumb, I should just let you be dumb. I don't know why I want to go off on that, but we were talking about that before we're on the air. So if you want to continue to talk about the mediocrity of beer,
but mediocrity, it has to be dependent upon what your expectations are. If you're expecting something better than the American lager beer, it's not terribly. But if you're comparing it to Stone, Dogfish, Sam Adams,
any of the
Sierra Nevada, then yes, maybe it's not quite what you expected. But if the local clientele likes the product, it may very well be acceptable at that point in time.
Right, and there's kind of a party line. And I don't begrudge anybody who says it, because lots of people say it, and there's some truth of it, that there was a little bit of a quality issue when they had the first craft beer bubble. But more important, there was a financial issue. That there are all these people were just over leveraged, and they couldn't sell as much beer as they needed to sell to make their mortgage. And one of the things that's been happening a lot lately, which makes people wonder if there's a craft beer bubble, is people have been selling out. And I don't necessarily condone it, but you can't say you don't understand it. If I invest $100,000 in your brewery, and 2 years later, Budweiser comes along and says, we'll give you $1 million for your shares. I mean, how do you say,
right.
How do you turn that down?
Good return on investment.
And it just makes sense. And so, and this is something we talk about all the time. The caution is that whether the brewers get over leveraged or not, whether they want to grow so much that they're taking on debt that they can't pay back. And that's what makes a company vulnerable to being taken over. I mean, we learned this in the 1980s.
Revenues aren't what they expected. So your shares are out and open for somebody else to buy, which is what happened to Budweiser.
Right. And again, there's not a lot of evidence that Budweiser is doing evil things with beers. And I mean, even lots of craft beers change as they get bigger. But the point is, and this is what I say all the time, is, just have something, know who your brewer is. What I said about this. So this week, I'm sorry that if you're following along on the show notes, this week the guys at Stone wrote a letter saying that they would never sell out under any circumstances. Right? No way, Jose, because they came in at the last craft beer bubble crash, and they want to do what they want to do, and they feel like their customers trust them to not sell out. And they mentioned
just like Dogfish,
and they mentioned Dogfish, who kind of made the same pledge earlier this year. But we talked about this either last week or the week before. They're thinking that that Fat Tire could go for $1 billion.
That's amazing.
$1 billion. It is amazing. I can't when you start throwing around, because somebody else just went for $1 billion, right? And when you start throwing around the B word, that's when I start saying this sounds like over leveraged. This doesn't sound like, and whoever buys it for that billion, I hope I'm not invested in that company unless that company is Budweiser. Because if that company's not Budweiser, like if I had $1 billion, I wouldn't spend it on Fat Tire. I mean, I would buy 1 billion bottles of Fat Tire, one bottle at a time. but that's another interest. They're a company they're an employee-owned company. So you're going to work every day, and they say, well, here's $1 million, and you don't have to go to work any day, or you can still keep coming to work.
But when you don't own something entirely anymore, you're open to whoever has that share, and they may take the money and run.
Right, and so you have to be even as employees. So again, what we always preach here is drink what you like to be happy, but also drink something within I try not to drink beer that hasn't been made within 100 miles, and really
that's fairly local.
Yeah, I mean, and I only put 100 miles because I'm friends with the guys at Dominion, and that's more like 70 miles. But better safe than sorry, because I like their beers, and they're nice to me. So I like to drink their beers when I see them. But I feel like this week everybody kind of owes it to themselves to pick up a 6-pack of Stone something or other, and just like a solidarity thing. So
and they do make good beer.
Oh, they make excellent beer. Yeah. And that's the other thing that I think people are forgetting is just you can always find more good beer. At the event last night, one woman asked me, why don't we have growlers in the supermarkets? And after I stumbled around with it for a while, because there are some legislative things that I didn't know this, but there's supposed to be the alcohol pregnancy warning is supposed to be on all the growlers. That's why the people at Cheers only sell their own growlers, because they know that they've got the warning on it. In Maryland, I think that they're allowing brewers, if they want, to just put a sticker on. So you have stickers behind the bar and you stick it on the growler. So I thought maybe it had to do with legislation, but then I realized that here, like, it's just a tough. I can't imagine going I mean, I don't even go to Cheers for a growler because I have to drive past, Rubber Soul and Evo and Third Wave. So it's a tough sell. Do you want to drive 10 miles for a growler, or do you want to drive, 10 blocks for a growler? Yeah,
you can walk to Third Wave.
Absolutely. And so that's why I feel like we don't have a lot of growlers in grocery stores here. I mean, there's a couple places in Delaware where you can get them, and that makes sense, in the beach towns, because people like to walk up the corner and grab a growler. But for this part of Maryland, it really, and that's what I said to the lady. I said, you are close. We were in Berlin. I said, you're closer to the nearest brewery than you are to the nearest grocery store. Only by 100 feet, but still. So that's the answer to that.
That's true. You don't have to go far anymore to get to a brewery.
Right. And buy it at the brewery whenever you can. I mean, we say this all the time. And if you've got this far into a show about beer, you probably already know that. But in case you're driving with someone, it
helps the brewery. They pay a whole lot less, or they make a whole lot more money for what they serve at the bar than what they have to export to someplace else.
Absolutely. That's why
them more.
Try to buy everything you can from the breweries, and that is that. I'm trying to see what we have. One more. The CIA beer mission. A friend of mine, actually, a friend is an overstatement. A guy I know wrote a story. I thought it was going to be about the whole program, but it was just a mention of the program. He's a beer reviewer, so he wrote a review of Brooklyn Brewery's project with the CIA, and that stands for the Culinary Institute of America, not the Central Intelligence Agency. And Brooklyn apparently has teamed up with them to have breweries on campus that they can work with.
I think that's a wonderful, wonderful idea, because there's so much similar between being a craft brewer and a chef. I mean, it's all cooking in a way. So you're taking grain instead of grain. For a chef, you're using your food, but the relation is very close. And I think, as we've seen from the cheese and beer party that we had a couple weeks ago, their beer pairings, food pairings, cheese pairings,
people
all go
really
together.
like it.
So, and I know from brewing with other people here, from classes we've done, the more we get people brewing, the more they see what's in the beer and the different tastes that are in beer, but not just beer. They also are more attuned to what's in the food too. And you can taste the different things that the chefs have used or have been prepared at restaurants. So it's a
Yeah.
win-win both sides.
And also the idea of a chef coming up with a brewery on premise, they're thinking about the beer pairings with their food.
Yeah.
They're thinking about how beer goes with food as they go along, which everybody wins in that situation. And it's funny to think about how beer has kind of returned to a real part of the culture from a place where it wasn't before. One of the things that I talked about last night at this talk was how, the German beer gardens, how they were like, essentially public parks.
Yeah.
Bring your kids, bring your dog, bring your lunch, and hang out and have beer, but meet your friends and, be out at a public place with everyone. And it's kind of coming back to that. It's really nice to see. And it's nice to see people taking beer seriously as part of their lives, not just as something to keep them from being too thirsty when they're cutting the grass. But we're gonna wrap it up now. We're coming to a screeching halt at just a little over half an hour, I believe. So we haven't done too much damage. You have this week. You have Saturday the 20th.
Yes, all grain brewing here. Starts at noon. So noon to 1 is the most important part if you want to learn how to do all grain brewing. So by all means, come out. We're going to have some eats and obviously have a few drinks of different things we've made in the past. So come out and join us. If you're in the Lewis area, we have a wine class Tuesday at the Practically Yours Antiques. That starts at 6 o'clock. So if you want to attend, call Bert at that location and let him know that you want to attend. And like I said, we have a distilling class coming up by Ray Baker, a local distiller, at April the 30th. So
that'll be fun. I hope that I can be in town for that, because that would be kind of a cool thing to do, and to just to see where the different ways that you can boil grain will take you, as we were saying earlier.
Well, grain, molasses, sugars, anything that is sugary, you can ferment.
Very cool. And I've got the beer festival, but it's probably sold out by now. I mean, you can check, but I think we're sold out. And no talks or no nothing for me, but you can follow us on all the social media that you don't ignore by going to extremebrewing.com and clicking on everything else, and then clicking on podcast, or you can find me at shorecraftbeer.com, and all of the things that I do, you can get me from there. And so until next week,
drink what you like and be happy.
Hey,
I got it.